My name is Sonia Pang and I'm the founder of Gallery at Home. I'm also a mum to Lydia and Millie and my son Tiger. We are based in a place called Penpergwm, South Wales, in a property called Park Lettuce. It's a really old, small country house, about 350 years, and are halfway through renovating it. When we moved here, I had the gallery premise in Usk, a small little cowshed, and we had been in the gallery for about 6 years. There wasn't any real plans to move the business here, but as the renovation progressed and the rooms opened up and the light came in, the shift in my mind felt a natural possibility. In May this year, 2024, we closed the small premise in Usk and decided to make the rooms at Park Lettuce gallery friendly. The initial ethos for Gallery at Home was to bring a gallery space into the home and keep it connected to the aesthetic of a home. I was an art and design and photography lecturer at university for 15 years. My passion was definitely in curating and bringing together elements within the home space for people to enjoy. I wasn't really interested in large gallery spaces. It was very much about the domestic setting. And that could have been more about my family dynamic at the time, the fact that I was a mum of young children. But maybe I just felt there was this beautiful intimacy and connectivity that was sort of being a little lost in larger galleries when I visited them. So I brought the idea and that concept into the first initial Gallery at Home show in my farmhouse in Usk. But that was on the back of a life-changing event for me. I got very poorly for a while. I was diagnosed with breast cancer and I had quite a battle on my hands for a couple of years. And so during that time where I was recovering, there was a lot of thought about the career path I'd chosen and why. And just decided to follow a path that I'd always been interested in. Further back, even before teaching, I worked in a museum and an art gallery. I was a photographer there, loved it, absolutely fell in love with the building, the concept of gallery space, creative space, the archives of things. And it was just the most incredibly creative, fulfilling year of my life. I learned so much. But what I did learn was that I was more interested in the art gallery floor than the museum floor. So I would often creep up there and enjoy sitting in chairs that were just like this from the 80s and aspiring and wanting. So it was not just about the work on the walls, it was the physical space and the tables and the chairs and how things were placed and the people that would come and the meetings that would happen and the workshops that took place. The whole thing stayed with me. The idea of a room and a gathering of creative minds and artwork that inspired and fueled people's imaginations. So never far from me was curation. At Gallery at Home, we opened our doors quite early on to artists, gatherings and groups. But during these sessions, new artists come with sketchbooks or examples of work. So as a gallerist, it's a great opportunity for me to see new work and maybe help nurture or see how that work evolves. Or sometimes, well-established artists will also come with a body of work. So there's different ways of imagining how that could work within my aesthetic, because that's another important thing. The Gallery at Home now has developed its own aesthetic, and so like most galleries, there's a sort of genre of artwork that works for me, and they all have their separate kind of vibe, and that has developed over time for me. But then we also have community shows where we showcase developing artists, which I think is putting something back. How I choose artists, generally it's what I see and what I like and what my aesthetic is and if it works for me. When someone comes to visit, I want them to feel a really beautiful experience of all the senses. The smells, the candles, the lighting, the coziness. Every room has a different aesthetic based on palette, hang, the choice of artworks. This is Sam Locke, who's a very well respected British abstract painter who has shown extensively across the UK and internationally. But what I want the public to feel when they view anything that's on our walls is a sense of immediacy, intimacy, accessibility, and friendliness. And no pressure, that they can come, have a cup of coffee, sit quietly with one of the books, look at the work, or have conversations with me. It's got to be a really comforting experience. I want it to be the absolute opposite of large white spaces, and I'd like them to go away feeling that they want to come back. What I have noticed in terms of every time we have a show, whether it was in the cowshed, the small space, or now here at home, how art can transform a room and how it can uplift you or hold you or envelop you. And I feel that that is an incredibly important thing to offer our viewers, our collectors, our friends of the gallery when they walk in and feel a sense of connection to that aesthetic and how that can be transferred into their own homes. Paintings and their subject matter can really influence how you feel about the space you choose to live in. And it's like the way you dress. It's living with it every day. It's an artistic choice. And everyone has a certain specific taste, I've noticed. So it's really important to be quite inclusive and to show a whole variety of artworks, because people do really respond very differently depending on their personalities. So I find that intriguing. There have been so many highlights, it would be very difficult to pinpoint one. And without getting overly emotional, because I'm a heart-led business, I think the first one would be the opening. In November 2018, I opened with Philippa Robbins and Toril Brancher, two good friends of mine, two very different artists. We called the show Fears and Dreams because I was terrified to open. I thought no one would come. You know, we'd spent 3 months renovating this tiny little cowshed into what was basically at that time a little white cube with wooden floors and some nice lighting and a coffee machine that cost an arm and a leg. I was terrified that it would not land, that I was reaching, that I was an imposter. I was more afraid of failing and making a mistake than going full forward, and actually making it real was a real springboard for me, and it elevated my own sense of self. It unleashed all the creativity in me that had been waiting. It showed there was no ceiling to your achievements. There's no linear path. You can pivot in your career. You can do something that you were born to do. So my proudest moment at that point was definitely my girls looking and thinking, this is real, you've done this, wow. My son also saw his mum doing something that was important to her, and hopefully that would inspire him. Gathering my artist community, seeing how they grew and how they become the heartbeat of the business. I was very proud of that. I still am. They're amazing people. They're my tribe. They are where I am at my most comfortable. The conversations are nourishing and life enriching. I mean, it sounds cheesy, but they are really the nourishment of the business. I say business loosely, it's a family. The gallery at home has a family of artists and collectors, friends that support it, that kept it going through lockdown. And then I think getting a top, high-end, well-established artist like Sam Locke to first show with me, terrifying, was a massive career highlight for me. Home to me is definitely about the objects you surround yourselves with, the importance, beautiful, useful, all those things. But the most important part of home to me is the family that lives within it. I'm a mother, I'm a nest builder, and how you can literally be physically changed by colour, texture, light. So back to the senses. What you're hearing, what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're smelling, the combinations of those things come together to give you a really beautiful experience. I think that's the thrill for me. That's the thrill of bringing it home to an intimate space. I like those combinations of things. That's how home feels to me.